Hello once again and greetings from the vicarage. I hope that you've all had a good and happy Christmas and have managed to see friends and family throughout this time. Despite the restrictions, it was good to see people in church worshipping on both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. It was sad to have not had our lively Christingle service and our candle-lit carol service. But there will be other years, and we will appreciate these services all the more, I'm sure. Today is the first Sunday after Christmas, and it's usually known as either the Sunday after Christmas or the Sunday after the Nativity. But this year, because of how the dates have fallen, being the 27th of December, it is also the feast day of John the Apostle and Evangelist. And so I'm using the readings for John. They are from John's first letter to the Gentiles, the whole of the chapter 1, and from his own Gospel, John chapter 21, verses 19 to the end. Now, about this time we read a lot from John's Gospel, and everyone will know the words from the first chapter, words which I mentioned only a couple of weeks ago. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We all know those words, but how much do we actually know about the man himself? Sons of Thunder is a nickname that Jesus gave to John and his brother James, who were two of his closest disciples. They were the sons of Zebedee, who was a Galilean fisherman, and their family lived close to Capernaum, a place where Jesus lived for a time and based his ministry in Galilee. You remember the famous passage where John and his brother upset the 10 other disciples when they asked if they could sit beside Jesus on his throne, to which of course Jesus declined their request. And we read that in Mark's Gospel, chapter 10, verse 37. Even so, Jesus had a special connection with them, and it is thought that when we read the words, the disciple whom Jesus loved, this is a reference to John. John, James and Peter were Jesus' best friends, and they were invited to witness many of the events that the other disciples only heard about, such as the raising of Jairus' daughter, the transfiguration when Jesus met both Elijah and Moses, and Jesus' private prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane. John and Peter were also trusted with preparing the Last Supper. After Jesus returned to heaven, his three best friends continued the ministry and became what Paul described as pillars of the church. John outlived the other two, who were both martyred, and it is believed that John had a long life, eventually dying of old age. It is also thought that he moved to Ephesus, where he wrote his 3 letters. In his Gospel, he never mentions his own name, referring to himself as a disciple he loved, with reference to Jesus. John was a witness to Jesus, and his reasons for reporting all that he saw and heard was to prove to us that Jesus really is the Son of God. In his Gospel and in all his letters, He is presenting the evidence for what Jesus says. This evidence is presented to us to make a choice. Is Jesus the Son of God or not? Now, I personally think it would be very difficult to read John's Gospel and to come to the conclusion that Jesus was in fact not the Son of God. Because John gives us an account of everyday occurrences of what took place while he was with Jesus. And in his first letter, which he sent to several Gentile congregations, and was also written to all believers everywhere, he wrote authoritatively to give a new generation of believers both assurance and confidence in God and in their faith. So much so that we are still reading these words nearly 2,000 years later, and they are as important today as they were when John wrote them. We can't forget that John also wrote the wonderful book of Revelation. His message was originally for the 7 churches in Asia who were experiencing persecution, but it was also written for all believers of all time. The Roman authorities had exiled John to the island of Patmos, and it was here that he had a vision of Christ. And following that, God revealed to him what would happen in the future when he returned to triumph over all evil. John chose to reveal his revelation in the form of an apocalyptic writing that uses symbolic imagery to communicate hope, especially to those who are struggling or finding life difficult. One of my favourites and most uplifting verses in this book is in the first chapter, and it's verse 3 where he writes, God blesses the one who reads this prophecy to the church, and he blesses all who listen to it and obey what it says. For the time is near when these things will happen. Now we have waited and celebrated the birth of Christ once again this year, and now we should all be waiting expectantly for Christ to come again. And so I'd like to wish you all a very happy new year, praying that this coming new year will allow us all to meet and socialise with all our friends and family, and that our church may once again thrive with worship and activity to the glory of God. Amen.